In the early days of Office 365, subscribers were offered the opportunity to subscribe their entire organization around SharePoint technologies. Customers weren't exactly quite sure what they wanted to do with that platform other than maybe share data. That same opportunity exists today around Dynamics 365 or Dynamics CRM Online. CRM, or XRM as we'll discuss it and describe it in this session, is a line of business application development platform that gives you the ability to build all sorts of case management and line of business applications quickly. This is an exciting platform that allows you to scale from solutions as small as replacement for Access databases and Excel spreadsheets and all the way up to solutions big enough to support workman's compensation and Medicare. Today in our session, we're going to describe the opportunities, how you get around those opportunities, how you benefit from those opportunities, and the solutions that you can develop. Presenting today are going to be Mike Dunmeyer. Mike is one of our senior, at Planet Technologies, is one of our senior CRM consultants, as well as Tim Muse. Tim is the Administrative Section Chief for North Carolina's Department of Environmental Quality, Division of Mitigation Services. With that, Mike, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, Steve. So today we're going to talk about Microsoft Dynamics 365, also known as CRM and XRM. We're going to talk about what is XRM, development opportunities with Dynamics 365, some government case management opportunities, and Office 365 and Dynamics 365 together. So to begin with, what is CRM? What is XRM? So CRM is known as constituent management or contact or customer relationship management. In government, it's generally used for citizen and constituent. X in XRM means anything. It can be anything management. And we'll talk about some of those later in the presentation. So the XRM approach allows for a more rapid and agile development process for line of business applications in a business. It also offers shared functionality, a familiar user interface and user experience. The security model is already built out of the box and can be custom configured. It also involves a workflow engine and a reporting engine. The Microsoft platform also interacts with Outlook and Word, Excel and Skype for Business, and Exchange Online and SharePoint integration and Power BI. All right, we're also going to talk about some of the development opportunities with XRM, such as grant management we've done with some state agencies, case matter management and types of applications such as citizen services or 311 to track complaints, inquiries, and requests from citizens, constituent management for governors and elected officials to keep in touch with their constituents, public outreach using some of the out-of-the-box marketing functionality such as outreach lists and campaigns, offender management with criminal and juvenile case management, licensing and permitting applications, inspection and audit management applications, task management using some of the out-of-the-box functionality that can be also customized, human resources and recruiting applications that could also be tied into a website to take input from people looking for jobs and to work through their life cycle at the agency. Social listening and knowledge management and many other applications. The majority of CRM applications are actually case management in government. And the reason for that is most of the interaction between agency and the public is regards to some sort of a case. And with CRM, government generally isn't selling products and services. So the government equivalent of that is tracking things like constituents and citizens, employees, voters, and associated case and matter information. This allows government to attain three key objectives. People-centric productivity, so this is streamlining the process and providing enhanced intelligence and ease of access for users, especially in the field where data access has traditionally not been available. This also to increase collaboration between agencies and provide a familiar user interface and user experience. The second one is citizen value creation. This provides one-stop shop for users to be able to get quick resolution to the issues that they're reporting. This also empowers the citizens for increased transparency and improve the government offerings to the citizens. The government cost management is the third item. This is to be able to accomplish more with less and to be able to offer new offerings to the citizens, to be able to extend those existing IT investments, which we'll talk about a little bit later as well, to reduce development costs. There's a platform that's already there out of the box that can be highly customized, and then also to reduce training costs with a similar user interface. There's less training that needs to go on. So how do Dynamics 365 and Office 365 tie together? So Office 365 is the umbrella of all these different applications. Dynamics 365, or CRM, is one of the product offerings within that package. And you can see some of the other offerings from Microsoft that are also included in that. Outlook is one of those. There's Outlook integration available to be able to track emails and contacts directly in CRM from Outlook. Also calendar, contact, and task integration with that. Skype for Business also interacts with that. There's a presence indicator and direct calling available directly from within CRM. Word for mail merges and simplifying paper correspondence back and forth to your constituents. Excel for exporting data directly from Dynamics 365 into Excel. Power BI also for extending business intelligence features. And that also includes the natural language searching to make it easier for end users to be able to do their own reporting and searching. There's also integration available with SharePoint to be able to use SharePoint as a document repository for documents that might be associated with the CRM records. And then other technologies such as Project Service and Delve and Flow. So this significantly allows you to collaborate, to have a greater experience with different agencies and different people within your agencies with a familiar interface that they're already used to using. This also provides built-in disaster recovery. With Dynamics 365, this is an online offering. There's no more worry of having server rooms and backups and things of that nature, hardware and resources and software to go along with that. That's all built-in disaster recovery. And then all of this rolls up into cost savings, being able to purchase the specific SKUs that are needed for each of the users to do their job functions. And with that, Steve, I'll turn it back over to you.
Mike, thanks very much. Next, we're going to turn it over to my friend Tim Muse. As I mentioned in the introduction, Tim is the Administrative Section Chief for the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality. And Tim is an avid fan and user of Dynamics 365. So Tim, I'm excited to see what you have to show us about how environmental quality has leveraged this platform.
Thanks, Steve. Like Steve said, my name is Tim Muse, and I'm here to talk about CRM and the utilization of CRM by the Division of Mitigation Services for the state of North Carolina. Just a little bit of background. I'm going to talk about our mission at DMS. I'm also going to talk about the background of the actual project itself. I'm going to talk about the different phases we've been through and also some future phases and some plans we have for our CRM. And then also some lessons learned, hopefully, that you either can avoid or you can adopt to make your own CRM addition a successful application. So at the Division of Mitigation Services, our mission is to provide cost-effective mitigation alternatives that improve the state's water resources. And to do that, we have 4 programs. We have an in-lieu fee program for private entities such as developers and Walmart, and that does impact a stream or a wetland. We also do a lot of work with the North Carolina Department of Transportation. We also have a riparian buffer program and a nutrient offset program as well. We're a little bit different in state government as we don't receive any appropriated funds. We are receipt-based, and it's very important that we track accurately all of our financials. We act almost as if we're like a bank and bank these environmental credits in order for these entities to get permits. The NCAS system, or the North Carolina accounting system, was not specific enough for our utilization, which is why we had to seek something outside of NCAS. We also follow very complex rules and reporting that we have to do, and it's very important that we have a platform that's going to allow us to quickly get to the data we need to address those requests. We also partner with state and federal partners like the Corps of Engineers and the Division of Water Resources. And so we got to make sure that any reporting that we do, we also report to the legislature as well, that we have a good platform from which to do that. So we had this program, it was called IMS. It was a project management piece of software. It was developed on Oracle backbone, and it was very limited. It had no ties to financials. So we had a financial database which was developed in Access and was pretty basic as well, and it had no ties to the actual project data. So you can imagine a project manager or a PM trying to find out and figure out where financially his or her project was. It was very tricky, it was very cumbersome, and it was, they would have to go and talk to the financial people. And, conversely, the financial people would have to go tell a project manager, hey, do you know where you're at on your project? So it wasn't a very good system we had, an Access database and an Oracle system. So what we were looking for was an integrated system of record, as they call it, or one system to combine everything together. And before I got there, I came to DMS in 2014. They'd been talking about it and talking with vendors for about 4 years. And when I got there in about 6 months, we sat down, we got all the information together, and we put together an RFP. So we drafted the RFP, we drafted the scope, schedule, and budget, and we went out for bid. So round one, no firms made the cut. We had about 7 firms come in, and they either forgot one thing or another. They didn't list their partners. They didn't sign documents. So actually, none of them made the cut. So we went back to square one. So we went to round 2, and 2 firms actually did make the cut. We did a best and final offer for this custom-built solution, and we were very excited about it. Then we hit a snafu, as you would call it, where the contractor wanted us to sign a subcontractor agreement. The subcontractor was going to actually host, because we wanted to do it in the cloud online, the solution, and they wanted us to sign a subcontractor agreement. State of North Carolina, as most entities, do not sign subcontractor agreements, and so the deal fell through once again. So we were back to square one. So that's when we started talking about this new technology, which called Microsoft Dynamics CRM. The CIO at the time and my previous director were very interested in seeing what this technology could provide for us. So what we did is we had Microsoft and Planet Technologies actually come in and give us a demonstration. And the more we listened and the more we watched the demo and watched them go through the various things that Microsoft Dynamics CRM could do for us, the more we realized this was a platform we wanted to move forward with. So we decided to move forward with CRM. And some of the benefits that as we talked, that we saw is that the state already owns the licensing. It's in the O365 platform, and you pay a subscription cost. It's one platform and it's expandable. It has a SQL backbone, and it's hosted in the cloud. We do not employ DBAs or developers or programmers, and we don't have a closet full of servers. We wanted something to be hosted in the cloud, and this seemed to fit the bill really well. So initially, we were going to do the financials because obviously the financials are very important for us. And as we started thinking about it and as we moved forward, we said, well, everything kind of emanates from the project. So let's start off with the project. So let's take IMS, the Oracle Backbone database, and let's do that and see how it goes. And we'll add fast later. We had multiple meetings leading up internally. We talked about who the developer would be, what we would need, and how we would support. Most importantly, we talked about data cleanup and what we actually wanted to bring across. A database, as you know, is made to answer questions. And if you have data in there that's not going to assist you and you're just collecting data to collect data, it doesn't make any sense bringing it forward into the new platform. So we had many discussions on that. And then we started figuring out what we would want in terms of the developer. And we selected a developer through the staff augmentation process through the state. And we had a number of resumes. We made some telephone interviews, and we selected a developer. And I say developer. The developer we selected is more than a developer, and I'm just going to put a plug for Rich Funk here, who's our developer. We did not want somebody just to sit and write code. We needed somebody who could interact with the staff, We needed somebody who could help us with the scope. We needed somebody who could just be a designer and understand our needs and really get to know what we do at Mitigation Services. And the big joke, and even Rich says it even today, is that he knows more about our business than we do. And he's probably right in a lot of cases. So our schedule, we started February 29th, 2016, we set forth. And as we went through, the neat thing is we had a scope, but in the scope, one of the first things we did was to sit down with the developer and come up with a plan. And it was part of the scope to sit down with the developer, come up with a plan, and see if what we wanted to do was really feasible and made sense. And so one of the things Rich said is why are you only doing the project management side? Why not do the project management and the financials, which you're going to do anyway at the same time? It would be more complex just to do the project management. Let's lump them together. Music to our ears. We were ready to go. And in July 1, 5 months later, approximately 5 months later, we went live. And it was great. We were very excited. Staff was very excited. It took 1/7 the time to develop this application than it did just the project management Oracle system we used to utilize. Phase 1 is complete. FAST and IMS are no longer utilized. Initial training was set up. Initial training was performed for the various groups that we had within Mitigation Services. And what we put together is a staff comment spreadsheet. And this spreadsheet was put on the shared drive. Everybody had access to it. And what it helped us do is it helped us tease out what was one of 3 categories. Was this data that wasn't brought over, well? Was it something that training or procedures could accommodate? Or was it something we were going to address in a future phase? One of the neat things that we got right off the bat, and when we went live, we had this, was the mobile app. And so our field personnel could access the information on their project, right, both the project and the financial information on their phone, on their tablet, and it was really great, and they really, really enjoyed that. Phase 2, which we just wrapped up, is our permit tracking. Well, we have to do permits through the Corps of Engineers, and that's pretty much why we have a business. And one of the things we had was it was on the iBeam, the Oracle platform as well, and we needed to go ahead and we needed to incorporate that in. So that was wrapped up. And in addition, we enhanced our watershed planning information. If you look up at the slide, that is actually live CRM from our production instance. So you could see the graphs, you could see the data in it. We also, so phase 3 now that we're in and we're getting ready to wrap up, we did our intra-program credit purchases or transfers of funds between the various programs. And we're also looking to wrap up our debit ledger, which is all of our assets, these credits. So we'll have the finances, the projects, and the credits all in one location online for everybody to utilize. Future phases including GIS connection, property section enhancement, some budgeting information and budget tracking, technical database. All these projects we work on, we collect technical data about them, and it's being housed in an Access database currently, and the integration with SharePoint. Lessons learned: build a great project team, and incorporate the naysayers. That is something that's very important to do. The people who are not quite sold, trust me, they will be sold when you start down this path. Take time selecting a developer. We can't say enough about Rich Funk, who's done a great job for us, who works for Planet. Work nicely with your IT staff. With a lot of municipalities and government entities, this is new technology. And you need to, especially with your security folks, you need to work nicely and you need to explain to them. All the interaction we had, we brought them in and they said, oh, this is awesome, this is great. Yeah, we'll give you access. We'll work with you to get you the access you need. You will have additional software and hardware purchases. Order your CRM licenses early. It takes a little while to get your CRM licenses. So all the people that went into phase 1, I just listed right there, from DMS, from Planet, from DEQ and DIT. They really helped us. This was a team effort, and it really went well, and we're really excited to be using CRM now. We actually won an award for Project Management Innovation Award, and we're very excited to receive that award for all the work we did, mostly Rich did, and that we were able to do and utilize CRM. So thank you very much.
Tim, what a great presentation. It makes me so proud to have been a part of what you guys have accomplished there. Really, and I'm sure I speak for Rich when we thank you for your pat on the back, but your organization did some incredible work for this, for sure. I'm curious, as you walked into this CRM project, what were some of the things you didn't expect that you got? What were some of the surprises from the platform perspective?
Well, anytime you embark on a new technology, you always run the risk of alienating your users. And one of the main concerns we had was user interaction with the platform, and how would it be, and how easy would how well would the training go, how easy would it be for them to utilize. And it was really pretty seamless for them to use the technology. The other thing we really liked, and I kind of touched on that in the presentation, was the mobile app, and that we were able to utilize it. It's great when the deputy director at that time, who's now the director, can call you from the field and say, how do I do this? And I tell them to go to the Google Store or the Apple Store and download the app, and he does it in the field and has it up and running and is looking at his project and telling me how great it is. And so the mobile application and the ease of use were the biggest surprises that I found when we implemented it.
So Mike, one of the things we find when we talk to customers, and even when we first had these conversations with Tim, typical software development is leveraging a kind of a standard SDLC. Organizations have their standard software development processes, and CRM doesn't necessarily, Dynamics 365 doesn't necessarily fit into that, primarily because it doesn't necessarily need all the phases. Talk to us a little bit about how CRM development compares with it's kind of a standard SDLC.
Right. Well, with CRM development, it's a much more agile approach. There's a lot of functionality that's already built there out of the box. You have your security structure, the database, the model is already there. That's part of the software right out of the box. So it's a matter of customizing that to suit your needs. And because of that, it allows you to start up a project much faster and be able to make adjustments along the way if you need to, and be able to develop and deploy projects in a much faster manner.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. So that raises the question, so Tim, when you first got your budget in regards to this project, were you a believer?
Oh yes, it was very interesting. The budget was one thing, and the time that was incredible. I mean, and we looked back, as I said, we developed developed in CRM, both the financials and the project in 1/7 of the time that just the project portion took. So I mean, it was rapid. Also, the budget was very good. We were very happy. Like Mike said, the backbone's already there.
So one of the interesting things that we have in this conversation is that oftentimes it seems to our customers that it falls into the too good to be true category, right? So we have conversations with them and we say, well, yeah, it can be used for rapid application development, and it can be done faster than you normally would expect it to be done in a legacy development platform. But on the same token, trust us, it can scale to unlimited users. But I think, Mike, that has a lot to do with the platform that it's built on, right? I mean, cloud, SQL.
Right. Right. It's built on Microsoft SQL Server. That is the background, or the actual foundation of the system. It's a web application form, but it's also available through things like the Outlook app that we talked about earlier, and it's available through the mobile app that Tim talked about as well earlier. So there's a bunch of different ways to access that. It's also scalable and available to be accessed through a web portal as well for citizens and constituents. So when we're talking about things like the 311 system or the citizen services system, to be able to do self-service, to be able to just go to a website and make that complaint about a pothole, or the lights burn out at the park, or whatever that might be that your agency works with citizens, and not have to call in and wait for somebody to process that request, and be able to just get those requests straight through.
Yeah, and as a cloud service, of course, it's Microsoft's responsibility to scale this out so it's responsive and any of that, correct?
Right, right.
And talk a little bit about, Mike, sort of because within the context of an Office 365 conference here, talk a little bit about identity and how that runs through Office 365.
Right. So because your excuse me, because your Dynamics 365 account is part of that overall Office 365 umbrella, you have the ability to do single sign-on, things of that nature. So whenever your users sit down and they log on at the beginning of the day, that is their ticket to the system. So whenever they connect to CRM later, you know, whether they connect to it once during the day or if they immediately connect to it, or if they're in there working all day long, they're already authenticated to it. They're already connected to things like the rest of their Office applications. So if they're doing any work with Power BI or any SharePoint integration, that authentication already flows through.
Yeah, and I think, you know, even to the point that if your organization doesn't have Dynamics 365, when you go to the Waffle, when you have Dynamics 365, it's just there,
It's
just
just
like
right up.
OneDrive and Skype for Business and Delve. It's just Dynamics CRM, right? So from an end user training perspective, they can just easily adopt it because it's just, you know, click, right?
It just looks like another application in the Office 365 umbrella.
Yeah, and so that brings about sort of an interesting thought process for me. Tim, from a requirements perspective, right, your situation was a little bit unique because you had done, unfortunately, a lot of pre-work, right?
That's right.
In some of the earlier
Sure.
RFPs to kind of think through this problem. But as you got to secondary and tertiary phases, how did you go about requirements gathering? Was it your standard process that you would have gone to before CRM?
We basically went and we had some interviews with the staff, and we pretty much know our business model. We're only 31 people strong, so it was pretty easy for us to determine what we did on a day-to-day basis. And like I said, they did go, and then I jumped on board through some requirements gathering, looking at all the different applications. The biggest thing for us, though, is as we went, we knew the financials in the project were, you know, that was just the base that we needed to. What was the more interesting thing is as we went down the path is the train's going down the tracks, and this is great. Oh, can we do this? Oh, this would be great. This would help save us so much time and money. Is that all these ideas started flowing from the staff, and it was coming from the staff. That's the important thing, is that you can sit as a manager or a supervisor all day long and say, well, we need this and we need budget tracking and we need all these things. But when staff starts coming to you and saying, this would be great, this would make my job easier and save time and money, that was a little bit different than your standard requirements where you sit in a room with a group of people and start hammering out your business processes and what you're looking to do. So that had already been kind of done. Mm-hmm. So it evolved. I guess the best way to put it evolved when we started using the Office 360 or the Microsoft Dynamics CRM, and that's how the requirements came about more so.
It's one of the challenges that we have in our business, Tim, and I know you've seen it as well, is that within the feature functionality and the requirements that come about, you know, the best way to do it in CRM might not be the way you currently do it today, right? And so, you know, we constantly are struggling with our customers to make them understand, you know, that business process, let's use this as an opportunity to reevaluate the business processes, right? I mean, let's not just take your current processes that you have today and just make them to a new platform, right? Take them to a new platform. Let's use this as an opportunity to evaluate those processes. And Mike, talk to us about some wins there in that area.
Right, yeah, we do that a lot. That's a lot of the job function that I play at Planet is doing those requirements with people, and a lot of times, you know, whenever I'm talking to them trying to get these requirements, I'll hear, well, that's just the way we do it, you know, and sometimes they don't know why they do it that way. They've just always done it that way, and so there is an opportunity there to, you know, to kind of step back and say, does it make sense? Is there a legal requirement that you must do it that way, or is it just because you've always done it that way? If it's the latter, sometimes, you know, there is a better way, or there might be a better way to handle that. It might be something that, you know, we can save development time, we can save project time, building something that will eventually end up giving them a better process anyway, and then that time can be put toward other features. And like you were saying, Tim, and we have a lot of projects that we've done the same way, where it's a phased approach, you know, where the customer says, we know we want to get these 5 or 6 things done right up front. We want to replace a spreadsheet, or we want to replace an Access database, or a legacy system that they don't want to pay licensing for anymore, and they want to move to a new, but like a unified, a more standard development platform, and we'll work on getting those specific requirements built out for them, deploy that as a phase 1, and keep in mind as we go through it for any questions that come up along the way, you know, that may start to be the requirements foundation for the next phase of the project.
And our phase 2 is a perfect example. When we went into our permits tracking, a lot of what was done on the old Oracle system, it didn't work. We weren't just, you know, phase 2 took a lot longer because we weren't just porting over data, porting over fields, porting over tables into entities. It wasn't that easy. It was looking at the functionality that never truly worked on the original system, and why. Why didn't it work? Is it a business process, or is it something that we can, you know, do we change the business process, or is it just something, you know, a limitation of the actual Oracle system? So when we got into phase 2, that was something that was quite an eye-opener, and that's why, as I said in my presentation, it's very important to choose your staff. We don't have the same team on every phase. We rotate the team because, for instance, on phase 2, the permit tracking, our asset management folks, they got in there and we started to hear a lot of things about, you know, the limitations of the software and what they would like to get out of it. They were critical in the user testing phase, where they could go through and look at all the things. So yeah, I mean, our phase 2 was definitely something that was testing.
Let's talk a little bit about security. Were there any surprises, or what's your take on CRM security for your business?
Security, it wasn't a big surprise because the state of North Carolina had gone to, you know, the Office 365 environment. It was a single login with your NCID, which you pretty much log in through anything. The one thing that was very interesting was looking at security roles within CRM. So when we initially had, and that has evolved, I guess that's a good way of putting it. So when we initially were doing the financials and the project management, we had PM supervisors, we had financial people, we had our GIS guy, because he's a database guy, myself, Rich, we had everybody involved, and we set up some security roles. Well, then when we went to phase 2 and we got the asset management folks along with some other folks, you know, still PMs, it started to evolve. And it was good. It was, you know, it evolved into phase 3 as well. But yeah, the security roles, there were no surprise. I guess your question was, were there any surprises? So I would say no. In fact, the security roles went rather well. The old system, just the project management system, they had to create so many roles, or so many users, I guess they would call them, because, you know, this gentleman managed assets, but he also looks at finances, plus he's a supervisor, and he looks at the projects as a PM. So you have to create a whole new role for one person. So that's something that we didn't want to replicate, and we spent a lot of time with Rich talking about security roles and making sure that didn't happen.
Mike, what about security in the development component, so field level security and other features inside the application?
All right, so security inside of Dynamics 365 is controlled several different ways. The first will be business units. Business units generally mimic your org chart, but they don't have to, and that controls the data that you have access to get to. So if you want to allow or prevent people from getting the data, and then the next step would be your actual security role, and that controls what you can do with the data once you access it. So can I create new records? Can I modify records? Do I have the ability to modify a record that somebody else created that I didn't? You can get very granular with the security, and then you always have the ability to get down to field level security. So field level would be, you know, you're on a form, there's 20 different fields on that form, and my security role controls what I can do with that, but maybe on that form I have specific fields, like maybe a grant number or a social security number, or something you're tracking that's a little, you know, a little more, there's only a specific group of people that should have access to it, or maybe only one person, and you can set field level security on those roles, down to the point where those fields can be set that you could have full access to modify the the value that's in that field, or you could have read-only access to it, or it can also be hidden as well. So there's a bunch of different layers on field level security at that level. There's also the concept of teams within inside a CRM. So that works out really well if you're collaborating with people and you may need to have the same type of security for a certain project or something you're working on, and you don't have the same security role between the two people. So you can create a team and assign security to that team, and then add the people to it, and the security just layers on and becomes less restrictive.
Which, of course, makes this easier from a development perspective.
It does.
Right?
It makes it much easier from a development perspective, and then from a maintenance perspective after that as well.
So you can take that forward. So one of the concepts that I wanted to kind of jump into now is in my opening remarks, I talked about sort of looking at Dynamics potentially as sort of the next SharePoint, right? I mean, again, when Microsoft and customers were subscribing to the Office 365 service, there wasn't this deep dive conversation about how we're going to leverage SharePoint. We just knew we were going to leverage SharePoint. And there was some obvious pieces around document management and things that we knew we were going to leverage probably. But SharePoint as an application platform or as a list platform or any of those things, we weren't exactly sure, but we figured that most of our users would be taking advantage of it over a period of time within the subscription. I'm trying to build a thought process around how Dynamics really from a line of business application is really the same thing, meaning that because it is a platform that can scale to spreadsheet replacement and access database replacement where I can centralize that data and make that data relational, make it available for all my other organizations, make that data organizational information instead of putting it in silos. Now that it's organizational information, I can manage it, I can report on it, I can make it secure, I can use it for the organization's benefit as opposed to silos. So, hey, we start talking about how many, spreadsheets do we have? How many access databases do we have? How many point solutions do we have in the platform? Mm-hmm. How many super line of business applications are we looking to re-platform this year? And why are we looking outside of this, this application, this silly putty, if you will, that we can use to build and replace all of these things? So, from a licensing perspective, Microsoft has made that a lot easier today, right, than they have in the past. Mm-hmm.
Right, they have, and with from the licensing and cost perspective, the more applications that you build within inside of the Dynamics 365 platform, the greater return on your investment in a number of different ways. One is if you have a user who has access to multiple line of business applications inside of CRM, there's a single license fee. Mm-hmm. So if you build another application and another application, you don't have to keep paying a license fee to different vendors or whatever. The other cost savings there is it's the same look and feel. So the user interface, the user experience doesn't change. There may be different forms and form fields based on your business requirements, but it's kind of the same look and feel to it. So once the user's trained in CRM, which is a fairly low learning curve anyway, because they're already familiar with Outlook and Word and things like that it looks similar to. They don't have to go through the same training over and over again. So it's just a small learning curve for these new line of business applications.
And there's licenses now, right, that varied based on a person's role, right?
Right, that's correct. The new model we came out with, I said we had 31 people. I think we have most people on the team or the user license, the lower end of the licensing, whereas we have our developer, Rich and myself and another couple of folks with a higher end license. So you can scale that license depending upon what their utilization is.
Right. So we've actually taken that thought process of making licenses being affordable, applications being cheaper because you buy that license one time and you can build out multiple applications, and the earlier slide that you laid out, Mike, about most CRM applications, Dynamics CRM Online, Dynamics 365 applications being case management, right? And we've developed a case management solution, right? Because one of the things we haven't talked about as it relates to a real benefit is there's key learnings. Right, at Planet Technologies, we've been doing Dynamics since version 1. We've developed a ton of key learnings. Those key learnings make customizations bigger, faster, cheaper, stronger because we roll those into what we're now calling like the Planet customization engine. Right, we also have these solution accelerators, those types of things. So the more you invest in it, the faster everything becomes, and it's already pretty rapid. I think we all see that. Right.
Right.
you know, it's something that we really want to talk about for sure and it's a real opportunity to succeed for sure. So talk to me about some of the other applications you're looking at moving to right now. Are there any other in your organization you think make great sense for CRM or?
Well, like I said, the connection with GIS is important, but we also have a technical database, which is very important for us. It's in Access, and we're looking at integrating that into our system, enhancing our property, and actually tying the Office of State Property through the state of North Carolina. They have their own database. And so maybe accessing that or trying to figure out a way through an API or some kind of external entity to tie that together with our CRM. That's what we're looking for now. And we're also looking for, customization reporting now. Now that the core has been developed and we're very excited, everybody's excited, the trains, I keep saying the train's going down the tracks, just hold that thought. And that's why we have that spreadsheet. Yes, absolutely, this is a report we can do, or these are some views we can create for you, or these are some other things we can push out. That's what we're looking at.
And government, of course, all of our customers are doing case management. So really, they should be asking themselves as they're looking to case management, how can Dynamics help?
Sure.
What about, you mentioned NCAS integration, so that's your ERP system?
That is our finance system for the state of North Carolina. We had looked at that originally, but like I said, we're trying to hold off. But yeah, we have to reconcile. There's reconciliation that has to be performed between the financials. So we're looking at tying that in as well. And I know it's possible. It's just one thing we're working on that we haven't quite gotten to.
So on a regular basis, we're integrating with ERP systems.
We have. We just did an integration this past year with an agency in Pennsylvania with SAP integration, two-way data communication from SAP into Dynamics 365 online and back into SAP.
And we've had conversations, and I think it's definitely possible, but it'll be more on our end, trying to get that together. I've already talked to Rich about it. He's aware of that's something we're definitely interested in as well.
Well, gentlemen, Tim, Mike, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I know I learned a lot about Dynamics 365. It is one of the things I'm most passionate about, so we highly recommend everybody take a look at it. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Sure.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.